This video will show you how to replace the wiper switch on a Mitsubishi Lancer. This will be located along the passenger side of your steering column. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Now before we disassemble anything on the inside of the passenger compartment, let's start by disconnecting our negative battery terminal. That'll be done from inside of the engine compartment. Let's start disconnecting the negative battery terminal on our battery. You can see it on the outboard side here. To disconnect this, you're going to find that you have a 10mm mounting nut that we're going to loosen enough that we can dislodge the terminal end from the battery itself. We'll give that a wiggle, a quick inspection, set that aside so it's making no contact with the battery end. Now to do this, we're going to have to remove our upper and lower steering column covers, so we're looking down along the bottom area. Now down here we have our adjustment lever. We'll go ahead and pull on that, and we can adjust this upward. We're looking inside of this area next. There's two Phillips head screws. Go ahead and remove the pair. Now we're moving up from there towards where our ignition switch is going to be located. There's a small plastic panel here that needs to be dislodged. It has 4 locking tabs. This is fairly simple, just pry it out of place. I'm using a small pocket screwdriver. Just make your way in between the panels and gently pry. You can make your way along the side or up along the top, wherever's easiest for you. There we are. We can see our locking tabs there. We'll set that aside. Now we have a nice big area here. Continuing on, I'm going to be using a plastic trim tool. You could also use a small pocket screwdriver if necessary. We're going to start separating the upper and lower panels from each other. Now you can see where there is a slot that makes its way all the way across these. Once you have a small gap, you should be able to pry with your trim tool. Looks as though I already have a small gap here, so that's nice. Just make my way right in between there, and we'll start separating this. Now this does, of course, have a couple more locking tabs we're going to have to dislodge as we make our way forward. Now that we have this side separated, we're going to go over to the other side. We need to pop that free as well. Okay, here we are. You can remove that upper panel. We'll just give that a quick inspection. Now that we have the upper panel off, we're going to start removing the lower panel. One thing I always like to do before doing that is I'm actually going to take hold of this plastic switch area, gently tug this out and away. It should pop out of place fairly easily. There we are. Now we'll take hold of this. We're going to start pulling it down and pulling it rearward to slide it out and away from the backside there. Now that we have those covers out of the way, we can start removing our wiper switch from this area. Now as far as this is concerned, it's going to be fairly simple overall. You're going to find that you have 2 locking tabs. There's one right down here on the bottom and one located just above the switch. Squeeze them both in and rock this out of position. There it is, friend. Prior to installation of any part, let's make sure we clean and inspect the mounting surface. We want to make sure that our contact points are clean and there's no miscellaneous debris or corrosion. And now it's time for installation of our wiper switch. When we go to insert this, we're going to be listening for a click noise coming from each of our 2 locking tabs, one on the top, one on the bottom. Line it up and press it towards the steering column. Double check to make sure it's secured in place. Now it's time for our steering column covers. We'll start with the lower cover. Along the bottom of the steering column, we have our adjustment lever. We need to make sure that that's in the proper positioning. Just bring it up, slide this under. Now that I have the lower cover on there, I'm going to pull down on the steering column and lock it in position temporarily. Now it's time for the upper cover. Now up along the top, we're attempting to align both sides of these. We want to try to lock them together. Swing it in, line it up, press it in. This can take several attempts. Take your time on this. We want to make sure each one of our tabs is aligned. I can see along this side we are properly aligned. I'm going to of course set the other side, and we'll continue on along the bottom with our 2 mounting screws. Now it's time for the screws down along this area. Now I'm not going to fully tighten this until I have both of them started in. There we are, there's one. Now we're up near the ignition switch next. Let's put on our small plastic panel. As far as that plastic panel is concerned, as you remember, there's 4 locking tabs. We'll just line this up into the proper position and we'll press it in towards our steering column. Now after confirming that's secured, let's continue on to this piece here. We're just going to line this up, press it in, listen for an audible click. Now we're going to pause in the passenger compartment, make our way back out to the engine compartment so we can reattach our negative battery terminal. Prior to reinstalling that terminal end onto the battery, let's make sure we clean and inspect the terminal on the battery. Just using a battery brush, we'll give it a quick scuffing. That looks good. Now we're using a wire brush inside of this port directly on the terminal end. Make sure there's no buildup or miscellaneous corrosion, and we'll rest that along top of the battery. Press it down as far as possible and tighten your 10mm mounting nut until this is completely snug. Right there is where it bottoms out. Just a tiny bit further. Double check to make sure it's secured in place. Now that we have everything back together, let's make sure we test the functionality. We'll put the key in the on position and test the wiper blades. Perfect. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.